Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. It's our midweek Leeds United show. We've not done one of these for a while, but the Whites are back in action at the weekend. It's a final push for the Premier League. Leeds United sitting on top of the Championship. I'm Stephen Brown, and joining me as ever to discuss all things Leeds United is Jason Booker. Jason, how are we doing, mate?
Very good, mate. I got the itch to talk Leeds earlier, so I thought I'd just fire your message across, and you were straight away like, "Yeah, I'm down for that." So buzzing, mate, buzzing to be back. I'm excited for this weekend, if I'm honest. I'm excited for football to be back, and I'm not worried. I'm not panicking about Leeds United playing this weekend. I'm just trying again another weekend at a time to enjoy the football, So yeah, good, mate. Very good.
Good stuff. Gavin, evening guys, evening Gavin, thanks for joining us. If you're watching along, please do get your comments in as well. We're asking, how do you feel going into this final 8 games? How will Leeds United get on? Is it the promised land of the Premier League, or is it going to be those playoffs again? We'll wait and see. I've got to say, Jason, I actually think this international break has come at a really good time, because I think the narrative and where a lot of fans' heads were, and you can't read everything into social media, but the general vibe was a downer, wasn't it? We'd won 1 in 4 games, and it felt a little bit like, is last year going to happen again? I've completely switched off from kind of Leeds United content. I keep an eye on it just naturally, or Nonto got injured, or, whatever it is. I've been keeping an eye on it. Today, I've just kind of revved it up a little bit, starting to, just look into a couple more stuff. So perfect timing when you were like, do you want to jump on? But to be honest, I've kind of enjoyed not thinking about. I think about Leeds in some form every day. So it pops in, even if it's just, a little brain fart that pops in there. But I've really kind of stayed clear a little bit, and it's been nice actually. It's kind of detoxed it, and I'm actually like ready and raring to go again. Let's get into it. Let's get these final 8 games done. What about yourself? Have you kind of not withdrawn from it, but have you kind of been still kind of madly watching stuff and reading stuff, or have you kind of used this kind of couple of weeks just to kind of put a pause on it and, just get a bit of space from it?
I would actually say, yeah, I have. As you know, I've come off Twitter for the majority of the time, which I think is just a cesspool of mess. Yeah. I have it on the desktop. I no longer have it on my phone, because I just think it's not good. It's not constructive. The app is just full of the worst opinions, and then the most toxic negativity on top of it. Like, you can't have a genuine discussion with anybody. I do have it just purely so I can kind of have a look at stuff more for here, like when we're on stream, see if there's anything that kind of gets the juices flowing. But as for football in general, kind of come away from it completely during the international break. I think it came at a great time for Leeds United, if I'm honest. I think, it's given opportunity for some key players to rest. Unfortunately, we have had some key players also go away, which I'm sure we'll get into. But, some key players that have maybe been under the spotlight for different reasons. And I'm thinking Brendan Aronson in particular and Ethan Ampadu. It gives them both opportunities to come back from either fatigue or injury. And I think they're both going to be massive for Leeds United. And for us as fans, you're right, like the toxicity and the negativity has just been wild. We go into this international break, still top of the league. People are just losing their minds because we've had 2 funky drop of points in the last 4 games. And like, it's like all of the 35 of, games before that have just been forgotten and eradicated. It's like it's all disappeared. And, I want promotion. I want to win the league, but I am not in such a desperate need for the Premier League that I'm going to let it ruin these last 8 games, and hopefully what should be so much fun and joy to be a part of. And then hopefully we conclude it with a fantastic finish. All I can see that comes of stress is a negative reaction on the pitch. It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help us individually in the way that we're feeling day to day, and it doesn't help the players. So you're not going to get that from me. So yeah, stayed away from it. I saw that Wales did all right, and Dan James got a goal and assist in the man of the match, which were great on the back of him maybe struggling. Some fans thought, I don't really tend to agree. I think he's been slightly less effective, but I think overall he's still been one of our better players. Wales did particularly well, and I think everything else really, mate, should be productive for us. Should be positive.
Yeah, this is the thing. This is the balance, isn't it? It's kind of obviously, I mean, I'm kind of prone to kind of getting anxious about it and stressed out about it, but I feel like I've kind of managed to manage that a little bit better this time. And I think, last year, it's kind of almost a benefit because it's a new season. We've been through it. We know what it's about. These players are one more year experienced. And you look at how good we've been over these games, and I think you're right. I think you've just not got to be so desperate and kind of, I mean, we're not entitled to it. We're not. There's no divine right for Leeds United to be in the Premier League. There's just not. There isn't really. And it's like Sheffield. I was getting wound up about Sheffield United and Burnley because I'm like, how can three teams be like setting this pace again? Why is it always Leeds in this? And why is it always Leeds this? And you've just got to look at it and go, look, they're doing top jobs themselves. These teams are doing it. Everyone's fighting for it, and it's a completely different. One thing I was thinking, it's a completely, in a way, I mean, the stress levels were huge at the time under Bielsa that running, but it feels more transactional now. Does this? It's like, we've got the biggest wage budget, we have all this money, we've got the best manager, right? This just has to be done now. I think under Bielsa it felt a little, because we've not been in the Premier League for 20 years. There was that emotional attachment. I think it's less so this time. I don't think there's that kind of emotion behind it that there was. If I watch Take Me Home, the Amazon documentary now, I'm still like, it gets me right in the pits, promoted and everything. Calvin, Bielsa, it's magic. And I think this time it feels more perfunctory. It feels more like, the pieces have been put together and it should happen.
I think that on that, it's very much like what happened at Ipswich last season. And I know it was different, the circumstance.
Yeah.
There was a certain amount of stardust around it that just shouldn't have existed, really. But it did. Whereas Leicester and what Leicester did was far more transactional. It was a case of that they should have gone up, they should have won the league, and they did eventually. And and I think like you make a good point with regards to the why always Leeds. But what I will say is Burnley and Sheffield United will be saying exactly the same that we did last season if one of them miss out instead. There's a very real opportunity, mate. I mean, we were complaining about 90 points last year. There's a very real possibility that one of us doesn't go up this year with 95, 96. That's, you know what I mean? And it kind of goes in tandem with the conversation of the gap in the Premier League between the bottom three and the rest of the division. The same's happening with the Championship because the top three in this division are too good for the Championship, but probably not good enough for the Premier League yet. So you've got these kind of little leagues within the leagues. And fingers crossed we don't come out on the wrong side of it, because I think it's a very different world for us being in here a third year in the Championship. I mean, when I say in here, a third year in a row, as opposed to what it would be if we got promoted and came straight back down. The world in which that would be very different, because the funds and the money and the parachute payments and all the rest of it that comes with it would be more conducive if we do become a bit of a yo-yo team. I don't think we would, but if we did, it's far more productive for us than it would be to stay down this season and go again. We would have a lot of players leave and a lot of churn. So, but yeah, I think you make some good points there, mate. I think you make some really, really good points. It's very, very different to under Bielsa. Very, very different.
Yeah, absolutely. I am a Bielsa widow, and I make no apologies for it. I'm not going to lie.
Nobody has to make apologies for that, mate, because it was so heartfelt, so I get it. Yeah. I absolutely get it.
Yeah. Lots going on, as ever. I mean, as you mentioned, the international kind of games and players flying here, there and everywhere, and some not. Lots to discuss as well. Obviously, we've had Farke's press conference today. There's a huge game tomorrow evening, Coventry versus Sheffield United. Season ticket renewals as well. So that's a kind of a debate now that's bubbling up. So you'll get our takes on that as well. But just in terms of the international games, and I think you hinted on it there, and it's spot on. I think Aronson not going away. Farke's referenced it in his press conference today about, he looks that kind of bit sharper in training. It's just it's the benefit of having a break. I mean, it's the benefit of just having a bit of time off. I mean, there's reports today about all these club championships that are going to be going on in the summer, and players are going to basically be playing. If you're a top player, you're basically going to be playing for like 18 months straight. It's some of the demands are ridiculous, and I think like Dan James, for me, he's kind of, he's been run down to the bone, hasn't he? Really, I mean, he's looked absolutely knackered the last couple of games for Leeds, and it's that thing, how long can they keep going? So when these players have to go for international duty, you're concerned, but thankfully, Aronson hasn't had to go. I think Peru. He had an offer, didn't he? He had an offer to go, but he's not done it because he knows he'd be travelling halfway around the world. So we've got a fit and fight in Peru who's chomping at the bit. Aronson, who's going to be fresh. The Welsh lads, it's a much better experience than what they had 12 months ago in that match, international break, obviously. You've got the usual suspects as well. So Tanaka went away and he was involved a bit. Firpo, travelling far, got himself a goal. Gruev, Solomon, clocking up minutes as well. So, we knew they were going to be used during this international window. We knew that there would be minutes on the legs. Nonto, probably, I mean, we didn't really know what was going to be the outcome there, an ankle injury, but Farke saying today that he might even make the squad for the weekend, possibly even start, maybe. All in all, do we have to kind of just go, okay, have we got through it? Have we made it with not too much damage, we hope?
You know what, Brown? It comes with being a good team. And even in the championship, that is the case. We've got a lot of international players. We don't have a huge amount of English players, which if you're in the championship, if you've got English players, the likelihood is you're not going to see them in the national side, which is understandable because of where England are in relation to a Wales or an Ireland or a Japan in our case, and a couple of the other nationalities that we've got. But we have got international footballers, and we want them because we want to have the best team possible. So it kind of comes in tandem. You're going to have that problem when you've got good players. So I do think the Wales situation last year was really detrimental. I do believe that. The human beings, and they came back from what was a grueling 2 games, losing in penalties, one of which in Dan James missed the deciding penalty. I think it did have an impact on them. That they've not got that this time. If anything, it's been a positive experience. I made the point to you before the international break that players do enjoy going away on international duty. They get to see some of the mates and some of the friends that obviously don't play for the clubs, and it's a camaraderie and a different experience. The pressure gets taken away for a little bit from league every game, championship football, which is intense. So I think overall it will be good for us. I think Brendan obviously not going, I think is a huge benefit to Leeds United. I think people massively underrate him, as I've made abundantly clear, but I think people also underrate the workload that he gets through. The guy runs and runs and runs miles and miles and miles every game. I don't know if you've seen it, but him and Purdue and Rodon have done a little, and Dan James were there as well. They've done a little video. And they're all mugging him off about it. The fact that he just carries on running even in changing room at half time, and they're all having a crack with him. And it was quite funny actually. It was quite wholesome. Ethan's really jibing at the fact that he just doesn't stop running. I mean, and he doesn't. But for a lot of fans, they look at that and be like, "Oh, his G&A's crap," and it's like, yeah, but that's not all that makes a footballer, not even a number 10. Especially not in the system. So. I just don't enter into it at all. And I think a fully fresh, fit Brendan Aronson that can give us his best will be key. It'll be absolutely essential between now and the end of the season. I think Dan James is in the same ballpark as that. Dan James gets through so much work for Leeds. Now, unfortunately, he hasn't been able to have the rest. Yeah, he came off after 60 minutes, but he still played 2 games. So it would have been nice to see him have a little bit more time off. But like I say, comes with the territory of having international footballers play for your football club. So yeah, overall, Nonto's the only real negative, but, we've not been starting him anyway. Sure, some would want to see him start in the 10 at the weekend, but I think with 2 weeks off, I still think Brendan would have been the man to start anyway, regardless of what Daniel Farke said in the press conference. I still think Brendan would have started. And that aside, we've now got Verba back in the squad. It sounds like Pat's going to be back in the squad.
Yeah.
Ampadu's back on the grass and ready. So really, we've come out of this international duty now with a fully strength squad again. So it's good times, really.
Yeah, absolutely. On the Aronson thing as well, you made reference there about what Farke said in the press conference, and I read a bit of a clickbaity thing on Twitter where it was like Brendan Aronson, not guaranteed to start under Farke going to the rest of the season. But then when you actually see what Farke put or what he said, and it's kind of typical Farke fashion where he kind of almost like talks himself in circles, doesn't he? Covers like every possible angle. It's like a really long-winded way of kind of saying that he might. It's like, yeah, but he's fine, and we've got other options in this, but Brendan's looking sharper, and I agree. I think he will. I think he'll be starting, and there won't be any. There won't be, especially with him not going away. I think
and with Nonto carrying a knock, I think that kind of rules out any possibility of that. I think Joel Perreault was very clever with the way that he kind of has put this international call up across. I'm not saying that he hasn't put Leeds United first, because he has.
I'm so bad at what is the country
name?
Right,
Suriname. Suriname. So basically, they're a little colony in South America that was colonized by the Dutch. So Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank had Suriname descendancy. Joe Perreault. There's quite a bit of Holland that has this connection, but it's miles away. It's basically the same journey that Joe Perreault, that Junior Firpo would be making to the Dominican Republic. It's the same kind of kettle of fish, and Joe Perreault will probably be hoping for a full Dutch call-up at some point, I would imagine. He's only 24, 25. We've seen Wout Weghorst play for Holland over the last few years. They've not got an abundance of strikers. Joe Perreault, with a few more years of development, will be able to play full for Holland. So I don't think he ever really was that keen on this call-up, if I'm honest. But that's maybe the cynical one in me. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, he could be playing in the Premier League for next season.
Exactly.
It's like how many Dutch strikers are doing that? Good stuff. You mentioned some returning people as well. I mean, Ampadu. I mean, I honestly think that could be the difference for me. I was fishing a little bit. I put a tweet out earlier. I was like, get Ampadu in for strike and we go up as champions. But it was, I honestly think he's just so huge to us. I think he could be the difference, me. I really do. I think if he's playing in that back four, forget about midfield. I'm not bothered about him being in midfield. Everyone's like, oh, he's better in midfield. Yeah, that might be. But as long as he's on that pitch, a centre-back, it's fine. And I didn't think we were going to see him again. I was convinced we weren't going to see him again. Based on absolutely nothing, but how these things normally work out for Leeds. But he's back. I mean, he's captain. He's got that fighting quality. I mean, you would expect him even if he's 90%. Farke's going to do it. He's going to risk him, isn't he? I mean, he loves Ampadu, doesn't he? He knows he's going to be in his team.
Yeah, there's not a world in which I see him now dropping Pascal to put him in there, if I'm honest. And what I would do. He would be straight alongside Joe Rodon in that back line. I think the more urgent area of concern for this Leeds United squad is in the back line, not in the midfield. We actually have a good set of options within that three, Rothwell, Tanaka and Gruev. They cover all the kind of bases that we need. Now, sure, Ampadu's better than Gruev, but is he that much better that it would then be worth him going in there over Gruev and doing that job than it would be to drop Pascal and put him in there? I don't think so. I think he would be far better in that back line to lead the game in the way that he does. We're better as a team with him in the back line. Yeah. I will not be told otherwise. I don't care what anybody else does from me says. It's fact. My eyesight tells me that it's fact. Yeah. So I would do that, but I don't think Farke will. Because I think he does like Pascal. I think he sees his qualities, and I think he sees it the other way. Now that Pascal's come back into, I think if Ampadu would have never got injured, I don't think we'd have seen Pascal back in the side. I think it'd have carried on because that's what Daniel Farke does with his starting 11. But now that this has happened, I see him coming back into his more natural position at midfield, and I think Gruev or Rothwell will come out and it'll be alongside Tanaka, personally. But I mean, have we really seen that much of that two pairing? I don't think we have really. Have we, Tanaka and Ampadu? Maybe 2 or 3 games.
It could be rock solid. It could be unbelievable. Yeah. It could be the way to go. But it's not been tried and tested, certainly. And I think, if Farke watches back that QPR performance from Strike, and I mean, like you say, just watching it with your eyes, it's like, please get Ampadu back in there. But I think you're right. I think it's that thing of momentum or whatever, isn't it? It's just, I can't see him doing it. But yeah, I agree. For me, he'd be straight back in there.
The problem is with the live section of the fan base, and I'm sure this applies to all fan bases, is that they can't step down from a previous opinion. They just can't. They can't find it within themselves to say, you know what, I thought this then, but now I think this now, and I was wrong. They just can't do it. You know, Pascal had 10 good games in the Premier League, and he has lived off that ever since. He had 2 then shocking seasons in the Premier League. He had a pretty mediocre season last season. He's had an even worse season this season for me because he's played more. You know, and he's regressed and regressed and regressed and regressed. People do it. People are still doing it with Solomon. I've still seen people say that Solomon shouldn't be starting games. People still do it with Dan James. It's madness. It's absolute madness. You know, Connor, not to name drop, but Connor does it with regards to Joseph. Joseph has been absolute dog this year. He's not ready to start games, yet he still says that he should be starting games. It's mental. And they do it with Pascal. They do it with Pascal because of the fact that he's been here a while. He's a Bielsa babe. He's sexy pirate. He scores a few goals. But as a defender, he is bang average. You cannot convince me otherwise. The mistakes all come from his side. Like it's, you know, I had my piece to say about Junior Firpo. You know, in the Premier League, I think Junior Firpo is one of the worst defensive fullbacks I've ever seen. But since then, he has grown, and in this style of football, playing as a more attacking, prominent wing back, he's a hell of a player, and he's a hell of a useful tool for us to have. I do think he's improved defensively. I do think at this level, he's shown that he can defend. I'd still have reservations when he came to the Premier League, but in terms of what I said before and how I feel about him now, I was wrong because he developed and things have changed. So you have to be able to do that, and just too many of our, I'm sure it does apply to all fan bases, but too many of our fan bases, what I see, can't do that. And that's where Pascal sits.
Yeah, no, I agree totally. Well, let's have a look at this season ticket kind of news that's come out now. I mean, I'll lay my cards on. I'm not a season ticket holder. I couldn't afford it when I was growing up. Would have loved to later on, but I was one of those people that were always working weekends and stuff. So I'm not fortunate to get a season ticket. They said it's about 14% increase, regardless of if Leeds go up or down. There's always a storm, isn't there, when there's increases, and trying to if you look on social media and you can see what people are saying. I mean, Jason, is it not just the reality of football, in this day and age, and the fact that it's the way it's heading, isn't it? It's getting more and more expensive for the average football fan, and it's kind of, what are we supposed to expect Leeds owners to do? Not kind of do that. I mean, it's difficult, and I'm not paying for a season ticket, so it's difficult to comment, but I'm just not surprised at all. I'm in no way shocked. I know the Trust have come out and said they're disappointed because although they communicated with the club and the club listened, it doesn't seem like they've kind of taken what they've said on board. I mean, what do you think of this? I mean, what's your kind of take on this and the reaction?
I mean, look, people still want to talk about football as if it's one for the working men in the 90s. And the facts are times have changed. The realities of things have changed. This isn't just a problem that's affecting football. I work within the food industry, as you know, and, prices of everything are going up. Every day I have people complain to me about X bill or Y cost, or, whether it be cheese or gas or electric, like everything. Business is going up. Now, with regards to Leeds United, it's a football club, sure, but it's a business. And ultimately that business will have markers and profits and amounts that it needs to make in line with where inflation's going. And, we had Downsy do his Huddersfield special on the ticket situation. Their situation's probably even more drastic than ours. It's gone up by, I think it's 150 quid. Yeah. It's about 50% increase. Yeah. They've not had an increase in X amount of time and all the rest of it. We've not had many increases over the years, really. Rads did us fairly well with regards to increases over the years. The way that I see it is that it's got a value to a ticket, right? A season ticket. And you have got a decision as to whether to make that payment or not. And whether you can justify it or not. Now, I love my club and I love going to games, but at this stage in my life, I choose that it's not, because I've got other stuff on, I've got kids on. It's not just the hour and a half of the football, it's the hour getting there, or 2 hours, because you have to get there early, it's 2 hours out, and all the rest of it. So I make the decision not to go and watch every game at home, right? Now, if you decide to make that payment, I think that's fine, but you can't then complain about it. You can't then moan about it, because the waiting list will say that there's still enough people that are going to pay the full price that they want to make sure that Ellen Road sells out. So I don't really have that much sympathy, if I'm honest. Now, I know that would probably see me get a barrage of abuse from the masses, that can't afford it anymore and all the rest of it. Well, then fine, don't pay for it and let someone else that does want to pay that for it go. I might be being a bit callous, but that's genuinely the way that I see it. It is a business. It's got a value attached to it that enough people will pay that for. So then it's worth that price. I want a Ferrari, but I'm not going to pay 200 grand for one. But if it were at 5 grand, I'd buy one. I can't see me complaining about the fact that it's not 5 grand and it's actually 200 grand. That's the way that value works, isn't it? So,
because I've seen a couple of arguments online where they're saying, well, if we get to Premier League revenue, match day revenue, and season ticket dwarfs it, but you just look at your own income. For example, would you be willing to give a portion of your income away or not maximize your? Nobody's going to do that, are they? And the club's trying to, Parag has said himself that they're eking out the maximum in terms of PSR levels, and that covers absolutely everything, including season tickets. Whether you don't make 100 million from it, but it still counts, doesn't it?
It's massive. It's still massive, mate. And the way that the business works will kind of be dictated by the income that you can self-generate too. It's not just sponsorships. There's a reason that they got into the cahoots with the Red Bull and all the rest of it, but this makes up a massive part of that. And I've never ever, even when I was a season ticket holder, because I was a season ticket holder for nearly 6 years, I've never agreed with I should pay more or I should be okay with paying more if I'm playing against better opposition. That doesn't matter to me. I'm a Leeds United fan. I'm going to see Leeds United. Now, I can understand that the products could be better if I'm in the Premier League as opposed to the Championship, because I'm then watching a better football game. But ultimately, when I go to watch Leeds United, I don't care whether it's against Chelsea or whether it's against Swindon in League One. I'm going regardless. So I've never bought into that argument either. And Rads was good enough to do that. He only put the increase on if we got promoted. I personally, if I'd have been in his shoes, I'd have done it regardless.
Yeah, it's one of them things, isn't it? Whenever it kind of rears its ugly head, you just think, oh, it's going to stir up so much. But like you say, I mean, those due to Mr. Bielsa again, those waiting lists absolutely went through the roof. Everybody wanted to be part of that. I mean, later down the line, there's going to be expansion, and we know where it leads. They want ultimately every club wants it to be like a day out when you go to the football. You buy your merchandise, your food, your drink, you spend the whole day there, you spend an absolute fortune. I think you're right. I think any idea that this is the working man's game and it's like football, 30, 40 years ago, it's done. It's absolutely, it's just not like that anymore. It isn't like that. And sorry, go on, mate.
No, sorry, I was going to interrupt you.
No, you go for it.
I was just going to say that the facts is the market is there to say that it's changed. Without the market for this fan and for the way that football has developed, it had carried on the way that it always had. But there's clearly the demand for football to be kind of consumed in this way. So I really don't see how you can have that much of an arc around it. Like, sure, people don't want to pay more for anything. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's your football club, the MOT, the shopping that you go and do, everything is more expensive, isn't it? And we complain about it whenever we have to spend more money. So I just think, if you can't afford it,
don't do it.
Then you have to give it up. It's as simple as that. Like, it shouldn't be coming before food goes on the table. But if it's the first of your pleasures that you wish to pay for, then pay for it.
Yeah, indeed. Good stuff. Okay, so I mean, looking ahead then tomorrow, obviously it kicks back into action, the Championship, massive game. Sheffield United versus Coventry. It's the 8 o'clock Friday kickoff. And why it is such a massive game is because of, well, Super Frank, how well he's doing at Coventry. And we say it through gritted teeth, but let's hope it actually works out for us. We've got them out of the way. They're on terrific form, obviously. Flown up the league. It's going to be a real challenge for Sheffield United. You would hope, anyway. You would hope that they can bring their A game. How do you see that panning out? Is this a game that you're going to be watching intently? Are you going to be keeping an eye on the score, or are you just like, right, I'll see it at full time and see what's happened?
No, I'm going to watch it. I am going to watch it tomorrow. I mean, I really enjoy the Championship when it gets to this stage. When it gets juicy and the games all matter. As much as it was painful last year, I enjoyed watching Ipswich and Leicester. I remember watching Leicester go to Plymouth on a Friday night and Plymouth doing down at Argyle. And it was such a buzz. And then I remember the Ipswich-Southampton game a week or so after that. And Ipswich scored in the last minute. And all the back and forward. I'm on board for all of that. Now, unfortunately, I hate watching Sheffield United because they're awful to watch. They're so crap. And I'm just hope that Coventry turn up tomorrow and do the business. They're very capable of. They have unfortunately just not the game just gone, but they did lose to Derby in the game before that. But that aside, out of 12 games, they've only lost one, so then that was to us. So Sheffield United are definitely going to have a challenge on the hand tomorrow. And if Sheffield United come through the next two with 2 wins, then you have to just say fair play. You just have to say fair play because they've got tough games in the next 2. But I've watched Sheffield United a lot this year, and they are there for the taking. They got beaten by.
What is it? I don't get it. I don't get it, Jason, because I feel the same way. It's like they somehow just managed to stumble over the line, and I'm watching it. And you see the chances that teams create against them, and I'm like, against Leeds, teams need 1 or 2 chances and score both. Yeah, do you know what I mean? I'm like, what is going on?
It doesn't feel like the look that Ipswich got last year. It just feels like a gritty, steely kind of undertone that team's got. That is how they win games. It's part of their style. It's part of their kind of makeup. Whereas I think we need a little bit more of that sometimes. It'd be nice to see us have a little bit of that when it's maybe not going to plan,
I think that's spot on. I think that's really true. Is that I think we do lack that actually.
Well, what is it? They've won something 16 games 1-0 this year or something. The George Graham 1-0 to the Arsenal and all that kind of they did it stinking. Sheffield United do it stinky. An event every now and again they'll come across a result like they did against Hull at home when they lost 3-0. They're the kind of results that they deserve to probably get a little bit more often, but teams are just not capable at this level of taking enough of their chances. They're just not. They don't score enough of the key chances that they get. Unless they're playing against Leeds United. Unless they're playing us. QPR get 2 chances and scoring both. So, they could really come up as a banana skin tomorrow. It depends on, the team that rolls out for Sheffield United. But I personally think if either of them are going to slip up, it'll be them. I think Burnley have got a bit of momentum. If they come back from the international break and get a solid win at the weekend as well, which I expect they will, Burnley
Bristol,
got a weekend.
Isn't it? Bristol at home.
They've got a tricky game as well. That is a tricky game. Bristol are right on the edge of the playoffs as well. So, it's going to be interesting. It's in our hands, mate. And, but I do think it's going to be tough. And I think it's going to be extremely tight and nerve-wracking. Because this points total, the more I look at it, the more I think this is... You could have 3 on 100, mate.
Yeah.
You genuinely could. With the games that we've got to go, our games, I think, are favourable. But if you actually break their games down and take out the Burnley, Sheffield United head-to-head that they've got, outside of a banana skin here or there, they've got fairly winnable games as well. So, we genuinely could see a situation where we're all 96, 97 and above. Easy, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if all 4 could easily win another 6 games, for example.
Easy. Yeah.
And you're well into 90 points then, and it's just it's
this time of season happens, doesn't it? This time of season happens, and results start happening, and banana skins become a reality. You know, then points start getting dropped, pressure starts taking over, and we just have to make sure it's not us that falls foul of that, and we pick up the majority of the. We mentioned about last season, and it wasn't just Leeds that stuttered. You know, we took 8 points out of the last 8 games, and we still went to the last game of the season with an opportunity to go up automatically. So that tells you that Ipswich and Leicester less so in the last 8, but Ipswich especially, they fell over the line as well. You know, pressure does funny things to teams. So that's why you don't see many teams finish on over 100 points, because when this time of the season comes, they start finding it difficult. Yeah.
Just looking at, I mean, surely with what happened last year, I mean, it's got to fuel something in it. I mean, just a way of managing it. You know, when you're looking at your Ampadu's, Rodon, you know, who else was there? Firpo, you know, Piru. You know, when you look at these guys, I mean, surely not adds a bit between the teeth, but it's just that kind of, we're not going to let this happen again, you know, and
yeah,
you know, surely it gives that experience, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. I think it's 2-pronged. I think it gives a slightly higher determination level and a ceiling of you know, desire to overcome what happened. And I do think it gives a level of experience. You know, once you've been there, felt that pain, and then come away from it, you are then not as afraid of that. You're not as scared of what's to come, because you've already experienced what's come. So now you can kind of push past that into then being able to bring out that performance. But we saw it under Bielsa too, even in the season when it was all juice, you know, all rosy. I'll never, ever, ever forget that Barnsley game at Ellen Road. We were 1-0. It was an own goal right at the end of the first half. We were awful. They were in a relegation battle. They battered us. They absolutely battered us, mate. We needed an own goal off one of their defenders' asses that it were basically on the byline. Bamford squared it, and it bundled in somehow. They battered us that game, and we managed to get it over the line. That's, you know, we talk about the Sheffield United results. They're the kind of games that we need to be seeing a bit more of. We've either won comfortably this season or thrown a spanner in the works with a draw or the odd loss. Every win I can think of this season really has been pretty comfortable. You know what I mean? So we need a few of them.
That's concerning. We need to find a way to. Yeah, because I totally agree. I'm watching Sheffield United and 1-0 this one. Are they doing that? You know, they're doing that. We've really got to. Yeah, we've got to start doing that. We've got to start doing that, because it's tough. I mean, I'm looking at fixtures now. I mean, Swansea, that's favourable. 3:00, Ellen Road. You know, I mean, surely. But you know, Luton away after that. I know Luton disaster this season, but Middlesbrough away on the Tuesday. That's not easy. So it's all to kind of play for, isn't it?
You know, if our fixtures were Burnley's or Sheffield United's, you'd be like, they're a piece of piss. They're gonna win all 8. That's what you'd say, because they are favourable, very, very favourable. Yeah. You know, Middlesbrough away 3 months into the season would have been a tricky one. At this stage of the season, I don't think it's that tricky. They're not good, and Carrick's right on the verge of getting the bullet. Looks like they're going to miss out on the playoffs. By the time we play them, they might be even further out of it. Like, you know, Luton away, people are getting swung about Luton away, and I understand the reason as to why, because of kind of where it's located. It's just got banana skin written all over it. They're awful. They're literally awful, mate. And, you know, they're getting turned over by pretty much everybody. They're 17th in the form table throughout the season at home. So they don't even have a good home record anyway. You know, but we're cooking, because we're Leeds fans, we're cooking it up into being this big fixture. I even saw somebody say earlier that they're worried about Oxford away. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't be worried about them all. Like, with the team that are top. Hey,
listen, if we blow it against Oxford away, we don't deserve to go up.
Exactly. With this 8 games that we've got, if we blow it in these 8 games that we've got, we don't deserve to, because we have to play everybody twice, and you couldn't wish for a more favourable set of fixtures than this that we've got. We've even got Plymouth away on the last game of the season, mate. Like, just to kind of take the pressure away from Ellen Road at Plymouth, you know, go have a nice day out at Seaside down in Cornwall. You know what I mean? Like, you couldn't have it any better. So you're not going to get any sympathy from me if we miss out. I'm telling you. Like, I'll be gunning for somebody, because this is in our hands.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, all in all, then, are you backing the boys? Just I'll let you know where I stand on it. I'm backing us to do this 100%. I think with Ampadu coming back, a little refresh over the international break, I'm backing the boys to do this. There's some concerns. But overall, I'm backing us to do this. What about you?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think Burnley are a real problem. I didn't think they were going to be, but I think since January they've really stepped up. But I still think that we've got more to finish in front of both of them. There's concerns, but there's always going to be concerns at championship level because you don't have a perfect team. You know, Melier, Pascal, I look at as particular issues. You know, but I think outside of that, we've got a really, really strong team, strong 11. We've got the best 11 in the division. We've got the best squad, I would argue, in the division as well. So, and we've got the most favourable fixtures by a considerable distance. While Sheffield United and Burnley both have winnable games, they also have some really tough games. I would not want Bristol City. We've got Bristol City actually to play, but I wouldn't want Coventry and Bristol both to play in this run of games left to go. Plus, they've got to play each other. You know, one of them has to drop points. Yeah. There's a big value in the fact that they can take no more in that game than 1 point each.
From end of season.
Yeah. So there's massive value in that. Massive weight in that because we absolutely with clarity know that one way or another, we're going to be a minimum of 2 points better off than both of them or 3 points better off than one of them. That can't be avoided. You know what I mean? When you actually mathematically think about it, they cannot eclipse, both of them cannot eclipse that same amount of points given 8 games left to go. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Yeah. So, I think it's a tough running for both of them. So I still think we'll win the league, man. We're best team in the division.
Come on, we'll do it.
The goals show that.
Here we go.
The goals show that. The records show that we've broken this year. You know, all the stats are in our favour. I'm not even that swayed by this wobble that we've had. You know, Portsmouth, we should have won that game. We had an insane amount of chances to still win that game. QPR, we went there and went 2-0 down and still came back to 2-2 and we could have won that game as well. The fact that we didn't just fall and capitulate, we came back and we were well into that game. And West Brom at home, like, you can't win every game. Like, you have to drop points somewhere. And West Brom at home, who have also drawn against Sheffield United and Burnley, both away from home as well. Like, I'm not going to get hung up on it. So, I just think it'll be business as usual Saturday. I don't think it'll be as clean as some think it will, because we've got Firpo back tonight, Tanaka back tonight. A lot of players have only had 1 day of training. I don't think it's going to be perfect, but I think we'll get over the line 2-0 and it'll be business as, and we'll move on to the next one.
A nice early goal. Let's have an early goal.
Settle the nerves.
Comfortable and just ride it through. Good stuff. All right. Well, myself and Jason will be back over the weekend to pick up the post-match review at some point, and we'll see how we get on. 8 games to go. Here we go, the final push. I can't believe, by the way, we're already nearly in April. I can't believe we're 8
4 or 5 weeks from end of season.
Like, what? How? Where's this year gone?
Crazy.
Absolutely mad. But we will be back over the course of the weekend at some point. If you're watching this again later, get your thoughts in, smash a like on the video as well. We don't have any commercials on the channel, so we don't monetize the channel. So it's really important, and it really helps us if you do actually pop a like on the video, and if you subscribe as well. We do really appreciate it because we'd like to keep it that way. But thank you very much for watching. We will be back soon. We'll also have our Monday show as well. I'm sure there'll be other content from the lads as well. But from myself, Stephen Brown, Jason Booker, thank you very much, mate.
Thank you, mate.
And we'll see you again. Take care. Bye-bye.